In this example, we are factoring the binomial 32x cubed plus 500y cubed. So a couple things to notice about this. It's only two terms, and it has cubes. Notice how the exponents are cubes. And there's also two variables, an x and a y. So we definitely want our helpful flowchart to walk us through this so we know what path to follow. As always, we're going to start by finding the GCF. So when I look at this problem, I notice that both the 32 and the 500 have a 4 in common. So my GCF is 4. So now I have 4 times 8x cubed plus 125y cubed. So I'm going to focus on that binomial. So I said binomial, so I have two terms. And then I ask if it's perfect squares or perfect cubes. This is clearly cubes because 8 and 125 are perfect cubes, and also because I see the exponents that are 3's. So I have cubes. So now I have two choices for my cubes. Is it either a difference of cubes or a sum of cubes? Well, this particular problem is a sum of cubes. Let me write that down. And the reason why it's a sum of cubes is because there's a plus sign in our binomial. If it was a minus sign, then we would have a difference of cubes. Okay, so now we need to use the formula, but we need to figure out what the a value is and what the b value is so we can plug it into the formula. So I'm going to look at 8x cubed and I'm going to look at 125y cubed. For 8x cubed, I noticed that the term 2x was being cubed, and for 125y cubed, the term was 5y. So that's my a value and my b value that I'm going to use in this formula. So here I have the formula once again. I want to take a minute and look at the formula because I have some tips, I should say, to help you remember the formula and to help you as you're inserting your values into the formula. So the first tip I say is to use your soap. Yes, just like washing with soap and water. So when I say use your soap, again, I'm going to focus on that plus sign. Whatever sign you begin with in the beginning of your binomial is the first sign you're going to see in your factored answer. So we say S for same. So we're going to spell the word soap here in a minute, S-O-A-P. So the S means you start with the same sign that you had in your original problem. The O means then you switch to the opposite sign when you go to the trinomial. And the AP means your trinomial always ends in a positive. So let's write that down. Same, opposite, always positive. And you can remember the acronym SOAP. Okay, let's start plugging in. Oh, wait, there's one more thing. We say square for the a squared. That means to get the first term of your trinomial, you take your a value and square it. Then to get your middle term, you multiply the a value times the b value. And then to get your last term, you square the b value. So we say square, multiply, square. All right, let's start filling in our values. We can't forget about our GCF of 4. That has to come with us every step of the way. And now let's build our binomial. So we're going to do the a value plus the b value. So it's 2x plus 5y. Now let's start framing out our trinomial. So we're going to take our a value and we're going to square it. So I will simplify it in the next step, but I just want you to see where all the values come from. Then we're going to minus because it's the opposite sign. Then we're going to take the a value times the b value. Then we're going to plus because we always end in a positive. And then the b value 5y is going to get squared. All right, now we're going to clean it up a little bit. So we have 4 times 2x plus 5y. Then in my trinomial, the 2x quantity squared becomes 4x squared. Then I minus 10xy because I'm going to multiply those two terms. And then I'm going to end with a plus 25y squared. So this is our factored answer. I am going to jump over to another slide and we're going to do the check because I think the check is very powerful for you to see what happens, how we get back to that original binomial. But right now, just make sure you have your final answer written down. And now let's go ahead and do our check. All right, so let's take a look here. This is the answer we got on the previous slide. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to check our answer. So again, we're going to leave the GCF for the end. And I'm going to focus on distributing the binomial to my trinomial. All right, so let's start. We're going to distribute 2x. All right, so again, like I said, I'm going to keep that 4 on the outside. And now I'm going to start by distributing the 2x. So when I do 2x times 4x, I'm going to get 8x cubed. When I do 2x times minus 10xy, I'm going to get minus 20x squared y. And then when I do 2x times the plus 25y squared, I'm going to get plus 50xy squared. All right, now let's come back and let's distribute the 5y. When I do 5y times 4x squared, I'm going to get plus 20x squared y. When I do 5y times negative 10xy, I'm going to get minus 50xy squared. And when I do 5y times 25y squared, there's the plus 125y cubed. Okay, let's combine like terms in the middle here. So notice the minus 20x squared y and the plus 20x squared y, those are going to cancel out. And then I'm going to switch colors here. Notice the plus 50xy squared and the minus 50xy squared, those are also going to cancel out. So I can just get rid of those. So I have the 4 on the outside, and then on the inside of the parentheses, all I have left is the 8x cubed plus the 125y cubed. And then one last step. I'm going to distribute that 4. And now look, I'm getting excited. Look what's going to happen. I'm going to get the 32x cubed plus the 500y cubed that was in my original answer. So I know that my answer checks out. So the answer we got on the previous slide is the correct factored version.